Okay, so we're going to be calculating buying power here on margin. I do have an entire lecture on margin. I also have a poor lady who was at Past Perfect and she paid for tutoring to be doing Past Perfect margin questions. I call that tutoring replay margin questions from hell. I felt bad because we're doing margin questions that you aren't going to encounter on the test, but it sounds like you got a pretty bad draw there. And then to figure out what they want to know, which is usually your point, whether it's buying power, it could be change, what ledger entries have a change. So we're going to do is a mark to market. So we're going to do our initial setup, and then we're going to do a mark to market. We're going to figure out whether or not there's buying power. Your buying power is 2 times your SMA. All right, so let's just now do a test scenario. Let's say we buy 1,000 shares at 40. And we make the required deposit. So we should know that if it says it's a margin account in a margin account, so it says in a margin account, because if it was a cash account, we would want from you that entire purchase price. But here, Reg T says, test question, the customer has to put up $20,000. The customer initially has to be at risk for 20,000. That is called Reg T. We as brokers used to be in charge of Reg T. And when we were in charge, it was 10%. You'd give me 10 grand, I'd loan you 95 grand to purchase securities, or 90 grand. That was called the roaring 20s. And we decided maybe broker dealers aren't the best decision makers about credit extension. And that means we're going to have $40,000 in market value, and the broker dealer will lend you $20,000. Test question. Chat is open if you want to participate. When do I need this $20,000 from John? So I'm the margin clerk. I tell you, I say, hey, you have a margin call of $20,000. When do I want this from it? Very testable. T plus 2 plus 2. Yeah, we don't tell customers right on, but they get 2 additional days. So, after 2 additional days, T plus 2 plus 2, T plus 4, I could sell you out, John. Now, if by the time I sell you out, because you didn't pay, the stock is 50, there's a $10,000 profit. So in other words, he never came up with the money. I sold him out. And by the time I did that, the stock was $50 a share. Do I have to give him that $10,000 profit?
No.
The answer is yes. I have to give the $10,000 profit. But then I say, you free rider, you took a free ride. You took a ride that you did not pay for. And so what do we do to free riders? We freeze your account. And for the next 90 days, you have no credit privileges. Be careful. I didn't freeze your trading privilege. I'll trade with you, but I want your money and securities up front. Now, let's say John did meet his margin call and he gave us the $20,000. And so we're on to the races here. We're doing our mark to market. And to do the mark to market, we got to know the new value, which is 50. And then I'm going to call John and I'm going to say, hey, John, for customers like you that pick stocks that go up, I'm willing to advance you a further loan. Please note, one of the questions besides buying power that John said he got encountered on could say something like all the following ledgers are affected, ledger entries are affected, except. And please note the debit didn't change. I think the best analogy is a house. The market value of the house minus the mortgage on the house equals equity. And you might have excess equity in the house. And if you have excess equity in a house, a bank would be willing to advance you a further loan. And we too are willing to advance you, John, a further loan. I say, John, under Reg T, you only need to be at risk for 25,000. And you're at risk for 30,000. You have excess equity. You have $5,000 more than you need in this account. Now, I tell most test takers that for test taking purposes, they would not be in trouble to think of excess equity and SMA as being one and the same, but they're not. And so I say, would you like $5,000 in cash, or would you like to buy $10,000 worth of securities? He said, well, do I have to do something today? I go, no. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a special memorandum to your account that on today you had $5,000 more than you needed. You can circle back if you'd like and get that as cash. Use your SMA as cash, or 2 times your SMA is your buying power. And so the answer is this guy could buy $10,000 worth of securities without coming up with an additional deposit. So the way we do it, margin questions, is we do our initial setup and a mark to market. So the guy bought 1,000 shares at 40 and he made the required deposit. That's the initial setup. Then they say the stock goes to 50 or whatever, 45. Then we do our mark to market and we compare what he's got to Reg T. He's got excess, and that's his SMA. 2 times that is his buying power. All right. Any question on that? Okay.
No, I think, yeah, that explains it a little better.
Yeah, what you got to do is you just got to be able to do the initial setup, mark to market. Now, there's only 3 or 4 margin questions, so, but it's kind of options. What I say about it is, depending on your draw, is if you do get it, then you know you're not going to miss any, because once you can,
believe it or not, I must have had the draw from hell, because I had both a long margin account and a short margin account that I had to combine together.
oh man, geez, that does sound like a face of death draw, right? That's a mixed margin account. By the way, it would be no different, right? So let's just show you that real quick. You can combine like things. And so again, the biggest thing I would want you to have a handle on is the classical margin equation. The classical margin equation short is the credit register minus the short market value. In this account, you don't owe money, you owe securities. And the securities you presently owe are going to be that short market value, and that's going to equal your equity. And so now it's kind of the same setup, and then a mark to market. So now we say that your customer sells short 1,000 shares at 40 and makes the required deposit. Now, there's no doubt now it's a short margin account, because you can't short securities anything other than a margin account. So whether you want to borrow money or borrow securities, you need a margin account. Now, where most people get hung up in this one is our first thing. I say, John, you're going to get $40,000 from selling stock you don't own, but you have to put up half. And so there's going to be $60,000 in cash in this account. 40 grand from selling the stock you don't own, plus the 20, your Reg T requirement, right? Because Reg T is that you have to put up half of that, right? So that's where most people get hung up. You owe securities presently valued at 40. So that second ledger line is still what you owe, but in a short account, what you owe are not monies, you owe securities. And so there's your equity. Now, same thing, we're going to show you buying power. Now, the first point is for you to end up having buying power. In this case, it's going to be selling power. The stock has to go down, right? So now we're going to do a mark to market again. And let's say the stock goes to 30. And so again, then we're going to do a mark. So I say you still have $60,000 in cash in your account. You say, oh, where'd that come from? I go, remember, that's the 40 grand you got from selling the borrowed stock, plus the 20 you had to put with it. But if we went in the open market and bought back the borrowed stock and gave it back to the person we borrowed it from, we would only have to come up with $30,000 to do that. And so please note, you have made $10,000 from the stock going down. And now I'm going to compare your equity to Reg T to see if perhaps I can't loan you more money. And I got to be careful here, because the short market value is that second line, right? So it's going to be 15,000. It's going to be, again, half of the market value, but the market value shows up here on that second line. I say, indeed, you have excess equity. You have $15,000 more than you need. You can have that as cash, or you can sell short additional securities. And you say, do I have to do anything today? I say, nope. I'm going to make a special memorandum to your account Then on today, you had 15,000. And with 15,000, you have 30,000 in selling power. So the key in both situation is to be able to know the classic margin equation. And remember, you can combine, this is from grade school long ago, you can combine like things. So what you would combine is equity long, equity short for that mixed account, right? I'd say, John, in your long account, your type 2 account, you have equity of. And in your short account, your type 5 account, you have equity of. Your combined equity is. And then if you have more than 50%, you're going to have, excess.
Cool.